Okay, folks, welcome to Project Inspire 2024. And as President Joe Biden has been known to say, it's great to be back in Cleveland. So Rabbi Sampson tells me I have this invidious position of opening Project Inspire every year. And the excuse that I've been given is Chazal say that everything goes after the beginning, right? So we're going to try and set a tone for this year's Project Inspired, which is not only about inspiration, it's not only about Hisaurus, but real practical advice. So when the sun sets on Sunday lunchtime and we go our separate ways, that you'll be able to take some pearls of wisdom as you navigate this journey called life, because every year I come back to Project Inspire, the world gets more and more meshuggah. And needless to say, the world is coming off its seams. We're going to talk about this over the whole weekend, what that means, and of course within the context of Achdus, what's our role? So I'm going to try and make this as practical as possible so that it's not only something that we can go into Shabbos with a smile, but really some ideas that we can take with us for the rest of our life. In my many years of speaking, what I've tried to do is cull things down to what I think the topic is that 5 actions that'll change your life forever. Every one of these 5 are literally tried and tested, not only by myself, but by other speakers. And I think that if you are prepared to embrace just 1 or 2, my promise to you is that you will definitely be a different person come Sunday lunchtime. The first thing, ladies and gentlemen, is from now on, I want you to change the way you think about time. So most of people think about time in a secular form, like a watch. If you really want to be smart, if you really want to achieve your goals in life, you'll think about time as a compass. It's not a watch, it's a compass. It's all about direction, and as opposed to what every single day runner talks about prioritizing your schedule, I'm going to focus on something which the Torah talks about, which is scheduling your priorities. So no longer are we going to think of time in a secular way, we're going to think of time as a compass, which direction your life's going. And instead of thinking about time, about checking things off, we're going to thinking about scheduling your priorities instead of prioritizing your schedule. So obviously we need to talk about the concept of priorities. Let's just talk about quickly the concept of time from a Torah perspective. How important is the concept of time? Suppose I were to give each and every one of you $701,280 in United States dollars right now. But that's basically what a room costs here for Project Inspire. $701,280. You're pretty pleased, right? Think about how you would spend that money. Now, what if I were to tell you that if you don't use it, you lose it. If you don't use the $701,280, you're going to lose it. So I want you to hold that thought. According to the Pew Report, the average American today lives for 80 years. That's 701,280 hours. So we're going to figure out how we use those 701,280 hours in the most judicious way. Because when you come to the end of this journey called life, you're going to get an open book exam. HaKadosh Baruch is going to ask you 6 questions, and it's all about whether you became the greatest you. And there's one of the commodities that's one of the most important commodities that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us, and if you don't use it, you lose it, and that's time. So important is, my friends, the concept of time, that it's in fact the fourth letter of the Torah. Bereshis, bara, Elokim, S, the Aleph, and the Taf, the beginning and the end of the alphabet, according to the Meforshim, is HaKadosh Baruch Hu creating this concept of time. What's the first mitzvah? What's the first mitzvah we learn about in the Torah? Just to underscore how important this concept is called time. Very good, Rosh Chodesh. It's all about time. Even when we see each other, right, on somebody's birthday, what's our salutation? Ad Me'asrim, right? Of course, unless they're turning 120, in which case we say, have a nice day. So There's no question, my friends, the concept of time is vitally important. It's something HaKadosh Baruch Hu created in the beginning of this world, and hopefully by the end of our discussion, you're going to change the way you use this sacrosanct commodity. We said the average American lives for 80 years. We said that breaks down into 708,281 hours, which is 28,835 days. Let's break down, according to the Pew Report, how the average American uses their 80 years. 8,477 is spent sleeping. 1,635 days is spent eating. Actually, here it's probably working 3,202, entertainment 2,000. Fast forward, you're in the bathroom, ladies and gentlemen, for 671 days of your life, which means if you live to the age of 80 years old, you have 7,363 days in order to achieve your potential. How important is the concept of achieving your potential? Who was the first Jew? Who was the first Jew? Abraham. Very good. Abraham had how many tests? Very good. At the end of the 10th test, the proverbial binding of Isaac, what happened? When he was Omed Banisoyan, when he managed to surmount the final test, what happened? A bus call came out and said what? Abraham, Abraham. Why twice? It's a lesson for all of us, and that is the Abraham down there in this world had reached the potential that he could have actualized up there. That's why, my friends, we're in this world. The delta between who you land up being and who you are at Project Inspired 2024 is called Gehenna. That's the concept of Gehenna, is the disparity between who you are supposed to be and who you land up being. One of the most important things is the way we're going to use our time. So I want you to start thinking again, time in terms of compass, time in terms of priorities. I'll take you back to 1954. Professor at the school, the professor in Paris walks into a classroom and he puts in the classroom the following. He had a bowl of water, and next to the bowl of water there was large rocks, there were slightly smaller pebbles, there was a cup of sand, and all he asked 15 of the biggest CEOs in the world at the time is whether you can take these objects and put it into this vase of water without displacing the water. It's one of the biggest Musa Haskell's that you'll learn this entire Project Inspire. What do you think the only way you can get rocks, slightly smaller pebbles, sand into this vase of water without displacing the water? You have to put the big rocks in first, then the pebbles, then the sand. What's the lesson for all of us? In life, you have to figure out your big rocks. You have to put the big rocks in first. So I have made copies, which I will disseminate to you guys after this unbelievable lecture, of a slightly modified version of Steve Covey's 4 quadrants. If you want to reach your potential in this journey called life, you want to spend 80% of your time in what we call the northeast quadrant. Now let me explain to you how this works in terms of horizontal and vertical. On the vertical side is important and not important, and horizontally it's urgent and not urgent. You want to spend most of your time in things that are not urgent but important. For example, your important relationships, exercise, all of the things that ultimately are going to be the core, and all of the things, those who've done Landmark or any other similar type self-help programs, those are the things that are going to be on your mitzvah. It's not going to be whether you drove a Lexus or Ferrari, and it's not the most important things, the big rocks, that's where the action is. You should spend 80% of your time doing things that are important but not urgent. So I've spoken about it many times because I work a lot with Gen Z, that unfortunately, because of social media, people are reacting. They're not being proactive. They're reacting to a text, they're reacting to likes and schmikes, and you land up coming to the end of the day exhausted and you've done 2 things. Again, if you want to use your time judiciously, spend most of your time doing things that are important but not urgent. So point number one is the way we're going to spend our time judiciously is we're going to put the big rocks in first, which means as opposed to time management in the Western paradigm, which says prioritize your schedule, we're going to schedule our priorities. We're going to figure out what our big rocks are. For example, if you have a business meeting and your 7-year-old child or your 6-year-old grandchild says, Zaidi, Tati, please come with me to my school play, what do? Why? Because that's the big rock. And time again, people will make the knee-jerk reaction, and you will find that people ascend up the ladder of life and they find that it's leaning against the wrong wall. Focus on scheduling your priorities. I want to come to a subsection of time management, and that's what's in your head. Okay, I happen to, I guess touring time, we can say this cryptically, I happen to represent the biggest content creator in the world, the biggest YouTuber in the world. So I think working with this person, I've got a sense of how the algorithm works and how social media works. It's all about making you sticky, latched on to these little screens, okay? It's also about owning your mind. I'm talking, I think on the last day, or Shabbos, about being a South African Jewish Harvard person, the worst possible combination. How did Harvard brainwash a generation? Who owns our minds? Being in the present is one of the most difficult things with the proliferation of technology and the advent of social media. There's three major, for our purposes, there's three major tenses, right? Being in the past. I'm going to give you an emotion. You tell me if it's present, past, or future. Guilt. Past. Anxiety, freaking out. Usually the future. How many people rent space in their head thinking about anything but being in this room, Erev Shabbos, Project Inspired, listening to the most unbelievable lecture? So you should know, that the Malach HaMaves, there's a kuntres on the tricks of the Yetzer Hara. That's one of the tricks of the Yetzer Hara, is to make sure that you're not in the moment. Because if you're not in the moment, you're not living. If you're thinking about, you've got what's going to be on Shabbos, and then we've got to come back, we've got to pay the mortgage, you're not here. This moment is never going to happen again in your life. Why are you in this room? I'll show you very clearly. The Gemara in Sanhedrin says every single person in this room, for the camera, 32,811 people in this room are all meant to be here. I have no clue what I'm going to say, but I promise you I'm going to say something that some way is going to resonate and has the potential to change your life. Chazal 101, okay? If you're not in the moment, you may miss something that is potentially going to change your life. So point number one, in the 5 things that you need to think about to change your life, I want you to start thinking about time in a very different way. We spoke about, instead of prioritizing our schedule, scheduling our priorities, we said about the big rocks. We spoke about being in the moment in terms of what you're thinking about. Let's come to number 2. In order to achieve greatness, you need to get rid of the following. It's a concept that pop culture talks about. It's completely erroneous. It's not a Torah concept. Get it out of your head today, and that's a concept of you can have it all. You can have it all is not a Torah concept. The way HaKadosh Baruch Hu works is there is nobody in this room. There is nobody in this room. The reason why I can say this is because it's very clearly a Maimah Chazal. I can show you inside. There is nobody in this room, I hope there's no one in this room, and I'll tell you why, that doesn't have a pekel. There's nobody in this room that doesn't have pain. The Gemara says very clearly, if you go 40 days without pain, it ain't a good sign. It's a sign of a tzimtzum, which HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, I'm indifferent to you. Go, gesundheit, live your life. Pain, by the way, according to the Gemara, can mean putting your hand in your pocket and taking out a quarter and not $1. So pain doesn't have to be, being a car collision on the New Jersey Turnpike. But any kind of knitch, anything that's happening to you right now, it's a very good sign if you've got some Taurus in your life. Okay. The same Gemara says the following. Okay. Hold on to your shackles for this. You cannot have, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't create a situation where at the same time a person's getting complete nachas from all their children, their bank account is beautiful, they have shalom bayis, and everything's pure equanimity. I've been doing this for a long time. I speak to a lot of people. There's always one leg of the stool HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in his infinite love for us, and I'll explain why, will be slightly not in equilibrium. Okay, so then get out of your head the concept of having it all. There's enough community, the difference between two concepts, shalva and menucha. Shalva means that a person's saying they're not missing anything in life. My friends, shalva is a negative trait. Why? Because if you feel that everything must be perfect, it's very, very dangerous. I'm going to talk, I think, the second day about people who want everything perfect. I've been involved in many, many, many shidduchim, and that's a very big problem where, especially with the guys, the women have this right. But the guy is waiting for Christy Brinkley to walk around the corner with a shaitel on. Are you guys nuts? There's no such a thing as perfection. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created fallible human beings. Okay, shalva as opposed to menucha. What's menucha mean? Menucha means that you don't need anything, as opposed to you've got everything. Let's just drill down a little bit more about this concept of you that you can have it all. So I used to do many, many of these programs with Dennis Prager. I'm not saying Dennis is I certainly do not want to quote Dennis as a Torah sage, but he's got some wisdom, and I want to quote from you a very good piece that he wrote in it's called the missing tile syndrome, and it says it all. Quote, one of human nature's most effective ways of sabotaging happiness is to look at a beautiful scene and fixate on whatever is flawed or missing, no matter how small. The tendency is easily demonstrated. Imagine looking up at a tiled ceiling from which one tile is missing. You will most likely concentrate on that missing tile. In fact, the more beautiful the ceiling, the more you're likely to concentrate on the missing tile and permit it to affect your enjoyment of the rest of the ceiling. By the way, my Rosh Hashiva would never, ever, ever allow us to respond when people say, Chanan, how are things going? A well-known Americanism is, it could be better. My friends, that's kfira mamish. The Chofetz Chaim speaks about, if it could be better, it would be better. Exactly what's supposed to happen right now is happening. You're sitting at whatever time it is, Erev Shabbos with a stomach ache, and you're worrying about, that's what's supposed to happen. If you were God, you would create this exact matzav. So it could be better, it would be better. The proclivity of the human being to see the missing tile is based on an erroneous thing, is that you can have it all. You can have it all in Hollywood. That's not the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world. Next. I want you to start recalibrating your definition of success. I've spoken, I think, in every continent in the world. In America, if I say the word success, let's be honest, okay, we're friends. If I say the word success, what am I talking about? It's gelt, right? Now, in the Torah, there is someone who is described as an ish matzliach. Who is that? Yosef HaTzadik is an ish matzliach, a successful person. This is HaKadosh Baruch Hu's definition of a successful person. By the way, when the Torah says that Yosef was an ish matzliach, was it at the time that he was the viceroy sitting like a big schwitzer in the... When does the Torah say that it says it 3 times? When are the times that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says in the Torah that Yosef HaTzadik was an ish matzliach? One time when he was in jail.
When he was in the pit.
When he's in the bore, excellent. And the third? Excellent, 2 for 2.
Potiphar's wife.
Give this woman a free shaitel. Unbelievable. 3 for 3. Okay, what? But there's something about all of those things, right? Those were big tests.
Yes,
so therefore, what's the definition of success? To make the Forbes list? Or to be able to have the intestinal fortitude to overcome, to use your stumbling blocks as stepping stones. That's what success is in the world of Torah. And the concept of how success has crept into our lives, let me tell you about the American notion of success. And that is as follows. 69%, this is according to the Wall Street Journal poll, which is March 2020, which is March 2023, it's pretty recent. 69% of Gen Zs believe that money can buy happiness. Hold on. The Wall Street Journal poll, which is very telling, is it points to a trend that is tragic that I see every single day with the people that we work with, that what's going out the window is religion, community, family, and unfortunately it's all being superseded by material things. The most authoritative research ever done on happiness ever was a longevity study. Was done by Harvard. Harvard used to be a good school. Harvard study of adult development. Started in 1938. That's a long study. Here's what here's the unterste Schure. Here's the maskana of the study. Money can never buy happiness. The bottom line of the research is, once you've reached certain basics in terms of certain necessities, anything above that is not going to have a bearing on happiness. And therefore, unlike the secular world, the things that make you the most happy are not things, they're people. It's all about relationships. Sam Walton. Sam Walton was one of the richest person ever to live in this country. He started a small grocery store called Walmart. What was Sam Walton's last words? You can check anything I say, snoop, schnoop, whatever you want to check. Every word I've double check. Thanks to PIC who promised that I check and recheck anything I say. What are the last words of Sam Walton before his demise? I blew it. He looked at his wife, who was completely estranged from him, his kids, who he hardly said a word for, and at the time, when with I don't know how many billions, he knew that he had absolutely missed the purpose of life. So number one, we said, if you really want to have a successful life, you've got to start thinking about time in a very different way. And number two, we said that if you want to have a successful life, you have to spend most of your time in the northeast quadrant. We then said, in order to have a successful life, we're going to have a different definition of success. There's another concept within the subcategory of success, is people conflate success and happiness. They're very, very different. If you take the Torah concept of success, let me explain to you the difference between success and happiness. Success is getting what you want. Happiness is wanting what you get. Success is having all the money in the world. Happiness is having family and friends to spend it on. Success is a fancy car. Happiness is a joyous journey. Success is having everyone know your name. Happiness is knowing everyone's name. Success is money in the bank. Happiness cannot be deposited. Success is private jets. Happiness is flying high. Success is second homes. Happiness is always being home. Success is praise. Happiness is never needing it. Success is reaching the top. Happiness has no ceiling. Success is envied. Happiness is shared. One of the things that I've seen in speaking on many campuses and in different audiences where there's a big secular audience, is people get confused between success and happiness and between fun and happiness. There is no word, my friends, there is no word in the Torah. If there's no word in the Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling you that the phenomenon, the concept doesn't exist. There is no word in the Torah for retirement. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, I don't want you to go be set out into the fields like a cattle and sit in Florida or the rocking chair with your teeth in a glass. The amount of the exponential degradation and deterioration of people when they retire is unbelievable. There's a disproportionate amount of Gedolim that never get any form of mental problems because they're sitting in the Gemara and they're using that grain matter. Retirement, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, we don't go off to the pasture like cattle. There's also no word in the Torah called fun. Because fun is something that is attached to the guf, happiness is attached to the neshama. If I say to you, after this talk, there's going to be about a 20-minute standing ovation. After Shabbos, I'm going to take you to the Six Flags, and we're going to go on the roller coaster. Is that fun or happiness? That's fun, right? So if I tell you about a year ago, I walked my beautiful daughter down the aisle. After about 2 steps, I was a tear welled up in my eye, and by 3 steps, I was bawling my eyes. Are those tears of fun or happiness? Happiness. So why?
Because you're having a relationship.
Okay, is that connected to the body or the neshama? How do you explain that during the Kabbalah, how do you explain that she made a beautiful and amazing boy? What was I crying, my nut?
Because your neshama felt it.
So your neshama recognizes a connection. Your neshama recognizes something that's transient. That's why people cry under the chuppah. Right? You're either crying under the chuppah because you're connected, or the Masada condition is standing on your toe. But if you're standing on your toe, that's your body, right? Next. Okay. We need to give up, my friends, we need to give up the concept of never failing. It's completely not a Torah concept. Who was the greatest human being ever to sojourn the world? There will never be another person even close. Moshe Rabbeinu. Did Moshe Rabbeinu make mistakes?
Yeah.
Right. If I was the author of the Torah, I would redact that, cut and paste. Why does the whole world have to see? But that is the integrity of the author of the Torah. This is the greatest person that ever sojourned the planet, and he's fallible. And he made more than one mistake. So the idea that we're supposed to be perfect or you're not supposed to fail, wrong being. That's a malach. That's not a human being. A malach doesn't have bechira. You have freedom of volition. That's why there's tzar. That's why there's a concept of reward and punishment, because you have a struggle. A malach doesn't have a struggle. Okay? We've spoken about this before in the secular world, the concept of failure. Person who lived in Europe until the age of 4 couldn't read. Till the age of 7 couldn't write. Was expelled from elementary school at the age of 11, was told you are slightly retarded. So you folks know this person today as Albert Einstein. Or how about a person who was a cartoonist, who wanted so badly to write and draft cartoons for a newspaper, went from one paper to the next paper, couldn't get a gig. Finally, so financially indigent, didn't have a penny to this person's name, knocked on the front door of their local church and said to the priest, I should have a roof over my head. And the priest said, you can go to the farm barn at the back of the church. And that night, a little mouse crept out of the farm barn in its corner, and this person sketched that mouse. You know that mouse, that is Mickey Mouse, and that person is Walt Disney. People don't understand what it says in Mishlei. A person falling is 7 times. It's not that they fall and they get it's but for falling, they wouldn't be who they are. My whole family is in the medical profession, so I made sure, speaking to my brother before this, who's a nuclear radiologist, that the following fact is true. Life breaks all of us. Life will break all of us. But you are strongest in the broken parts. How do we know that is a fact? HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates in the physical world a pedagogical example of things that happen in the spiritual world. When you break a bone, at the point that that bone meets and grows together, you are strongest in that part. My brother was explaining, and he's been through many, obviously he's a radiologist, that it's highly unlikely that you're going to break on that same. There's a certain chemical that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created, so the bone knits in a way that it's strongest in that part. That's a good lesson for all of us. Is that if you really want to get a good understanding of why you're in this world, and I do this often in yeshivas, why are we in this world? Rabbi, I'm here to do the Tariq mitzvahs. Rabbi, I'm here. There's a reason why every single person in this room, it came into this world. And it's not the same for anyone else here. I don't know if any of you have seen a person laning and suddenly they stop. The Baal Koreh stops. Often the reason is because he's got 2 asias, two of the letters are touching. You can never have 2 letters touching. Every neshama is a separate letter in the Torah. You can never ever be the same as somebody else. Your tafkid is not the same as somebody else's. The place where you're broken, the place that keeps coming up in your life, the nisoyan that you look heaven down and say, Monas HaKadosh Baruch Hu, just get rid of it. That's how you know what your tafkid is in this world. It says in many places, it says in the Shalom, it says many places, the test that keeps repeating in your life, the area that somehow keeps being that gnawing Achilles heel, is a tremendous indicator of why your neshama has been sent into this world. So failure, very clearly, is something that is part and parcel of the journey of life. Next, there is one thing that every single one of you, number 5, can have completely own, and it's up to you. There's one thing that, do you choose your parents?
No.
Do you choose your IQ?
No.
Do you choose the color of your eyes?
No.
This is something you can choose. This is something you can choose. And I know what you're going to ask me, and this is something I talk about a lot. What can each and every one of us choose in the journey called life?
Happiness.
You're on the right track.
Reaction.
Okay, you're on the right track. We cannot control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond to what happens to us. Say it in one word.
Reaction.
As a word starts with A.
Attitude.
Very good. Give that man a shaitel. Attitude. Are you, the best example is Viktor Frankl. Man's Search for Meaning. What, anyone knows, when did Viktor Frankl pen this book in his head? He was in Auschwitz. He was in Auschwitz and he was pretending to give lectures and he realized the Nazis, Yamach Shemam, can take everything, but they can never take away your attitude. And I want to tell you something else, and this is according to the Torah and according to all psychological research, is that there are people that are naturally wired, their disposition is more prone to see the glass half full, and there's you can have a different predisposition, but that can be worked on and that can be changed. Your attitude is something that you can work on and that you can change. Okay, I want to quickly summarize this, and then I want to give you the 10 commandments that I want you to take with you for the rest of your life. We said the following. The topic is 5 actions that will change your life forever. We said in terms of time. I no longer want you to think of time in a circular fashion. I want you to think of it in terms of a compass, the direction of your life. Instead of thinking of prioritize your schedule, we're going to schedule our, which means we have to know what our priorities are. What did I say about how do you figure out what your priorities are? You've got to put the big rocks in first. The chances are the big rocks your relationship, your spouse, your kids, or whether you can afford to go to KMR. Very good. Putting the big rocks in first is the way you will come to this end of this journey. Chazal have promised us one thing, mefurish, klar. Nobody comes to the end of this journey called life and checks all the boxes. Nobody. You want to make sure you just check the column that says the big rocks. You don't want to leave Yonah Shoma like Sam Walton and say, I blew it. Next. We said that we're going to rethink the concept of success. I left that one, I'm going to come back to it. We said that if I say the word success in the Western paradigm and culture, we think of, but we said that who is an Ish Matzliach 3 times in the Torah? Yosef. And you pointed out there are 3 times that the Torah says Ish Matzliach. Every one of the context where it says Ish Matzliach, Yosef was going through a Gehenna, and therefore success is a person who uses the stumbling blocks as stepping stones, and is a person who might have a whole bunch of things hitting the fan, but they still have the ability that if you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change. Next. We said that there is no such the notion of you can have it all is completely erroneous. It doesn't exist from a Torah perspective. Every single person I said in this room, Be'ezus Hashem, has pain. Every one of you has a pekel. It's very clear that if you go 40 days without some kind of pain, the Rambam says very clearly, the highest form of pain is indifference. According to the Rambam, the most benign form is money. The next form up is health problems, chas v'shalom. The third form of pain is vicarious pain. That's a pain a parent feels for a child. The zenith of pain and suffering, according to the Rambam, is indifference. That's the Nachash. The Nachash was able to slither and slip, and he didn't have to ever look heaven-bound because he had his food, he had everything. When everything is going your way, the chances are you're riding on the wrong side of the road. It's not supposed to be like that. We said then, number 4, we said change success. We said you can't have it all. We said failure. And the final point we said was your attitude. Okay, I want to tell you in my journey, in my life, if I had to cull this down into the 10 things that I want you to take with you for the rest of your life, certain things that I want you to let go of from now on to have an unbelievably happy, successful life, they would be the following 10 things. If I can't find them, I will have to do them ba'al peh. Number 1. 1 second. And then we're going to open it up I want to take a few questions before the standing ovation. Okay, the 10 things that you need to let go of in order to have a successful, happy, wholesome life. Number 1, You've got to let go of the opinions of others controlling your life. What other people think of you is none of your business. I work with a lot of Gen Zs. Their entire decision-making is based on FOMO. I won't go into details. There's a certain subsect of a certain culture in America. Many of these kids land up going into professions because their parents told them they'll be good at that. Insanity. Next, you need to let go, as we alluded to, the shame of past failures. About 7 or 8 years ago, no more, about 10 years ago, I was speaking at KMR. A woman comes up to the podium afterwards, and she starts crying. And it's very awkward. I'm trying to be machazek her. I'm trying to get a word in. 2 minutes, 3 minutes, she's bored. And all I could hear is, he did this, Rabbi, and he did this. It took about 3.5 minutes for me to figure out she was talking about her ex-husband that she divorced 21 years ago. So this is a person who's been going through life with a handbrake up for 21 years. You've got to let go of the shame of past failures. And I'm not saying a marriage that goes to Masechta Gittin is a failure. Number 3, you've got to get rid of being indecisive about what you want. My friends, the road of life is filled with flat squirrels that couldn't make a decision. It's unbelievable. I see people at all these gigs, at Project Inspire, Gateways. It breaks my heart when I sit down with someone and we go through something, and 3 years later, they still haven't made a decision. It's a very, very good trick of the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara just wants you to perseverate. Number 4, you've got to let go of procrastinating on the goals that matter. You've got to let go of procrastinating on the goals that matter. Let me tell you what this means from a deep Torah perspective. How many times do I hear, Rabbi, it sounds amazing what you're saying, but you don't understand, Rabbi. I've got this storm in my life. I mean, my Shalom Bayis is Rabbi, the idea of starting a new learning site, but you don't understand, Rabbi, I've got a storm of my business. So I'm here to tell you, every person in this room has a storm in their life. It's an optical illusion to think that you're going to wake up, the storm's going to subside, the rainbow's going to come up, you're going to live in a white picket fence with a Labrador in Greenwich. That's not why we're in this world. We're not here to wait for the storm to subside. We're here to dance in the rain. Next, you need to let go of choosing to do nothing. Another trick of the Yetzer Hara. There's such a thing, as I said, everything in the physical world has a functional equivalent to teach us in the spiritual world. There's something called gravity. If you do nothing, you're going to go the other way. Why do you think in Yiddish, when I see a friend, what is the salutation I say? Was macht der Yid? What are you making of yourself? One of the biggest tragedies is someone says to you, someone said to me at my Harvard reunion, someone said to me, you're the exact same guy that left law school X years ago. That's the biggest insult you can give a person. I'm a walking cadaver, that's great. Number 6, you need to let go of being right. This will come up all the time in a marriage situation. And let me tell you, and I've been through this many times with many couples, you can either be right or you can be married. There are very, very few times, I'm not a PIC, but there are very, very few times in halacha where we have what's called a pshara, a happy medium, right? What's the halacha of a mezuzah? One Mandiyama says it should be horizontal, the other vertical. When you look at the doorpost when you go home on Sunday after you tip Rabbi Gordon and the other rabbis, what do you see? It's at 45 degrees. You've got to meet each other halfway. And what's the first thing you kiss before you walk into a Jewish home? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in that home. It's not about being right. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't care about being right. It's about understanding the understanding of the other person and being machshiv the other person. And ego, which is a men's problem, not a woman, is edge God out. As soon as you've got ego, the Shekhinah leaves. Number 7, you need to let go of running from problem to problem that should be fixed. It's a very, 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 very wonderful thing that you run from problem to problem. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the carpet is getting extremely lumpy with what we're brushing under the carpet. The way successful people, and I'm saying this from a Torah perspective, handle life is when something comes out, face it, face on, deal with it. Don't say in 3 months and 6 months because it may not happen. Number 8, you need to let go of making excuses rather than decisions. Successful people don't make excuses. They make decisions. It's very, very easy to make excuses. It doesn't help you to get to where you want to go. Number 9, you need to let go of overlooking the positive points in your life. The positive points in your life, ladies and gentlemen, 8.7 billion people on this planet. Out of 8.7 billion people, 0.02% are Jews. The whole world is going absolutely meshuggah. You would swear that our country is the size of Australia and America together. We're not even the size of New Jersey. Okay? The idea of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, life is very rough. It's getting a lot more. But every person in this room is the diamond in the rough. You've got to understand that not only are you part of the 0.2, but the fact that you're at a Project Inspire convention listening to this unbelievable lecture means that you are 10% of the 0.02, which are the people that understand why we're in this world. You people are the people HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving the torch. You people, the people in this room, are the people HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be relying on. I'm talking about the only way to fight anti-Semitism is not by running around Harvard with it's bringing a light to a very, very dark world. And it's by doing what you people are doing, giving up a Shabbos weekend to try and bring Hisorus and Achdus. That's exactly what's going to refute anti-Semitism. Number 10, you need to give up the notion of not appreciating this moment. It's a very big Yetzer Hara when people say, you know, I'm sitting here, I could be, this is exactly where you're supposed to be. Exactly where you're supposed to be. I can say this from doing this for many, many years. I have no clue who lands up at what lecture. But many times, not once or twice, there's too many, it's almost empirical. I've spoken to people that say, Rabbi Gordon, I blondered into your lecture, and if you're here, you're meant to be here, and you're meant to hear something that hopefully can change your life. Hopefully we'll take these things to heart. The passion that I have is because not only this is what I do, but I have such a contrast. My proverbial day job is working with some of the biggest people in the world of entertainment, sport. I don't say this with any joy. I wish good on everyone. But the people that the Gen Z and pop culture are putting on a pedestal are living dysfunctional lives. I know these people. I'm their Rebbe. It's ridiculous. You people in this room, the Jewish people were handpicked. The people, Nochamal, that are in this room, they're not only handpicked, but understand that you have a GPS for life. We all know what the very final destination is. No one in this room is going to avoid the Chevra Kadisha. But the idea of taking some of the rules that we discussed today and over the Shabbos together is just to make sure that you recalculate a lot less. You don't have to go through 27 marriages to figure out about relationships. You don't have to, and I get this all the time, but Rabbi, Pliny has got this, and this, and I know Pliny. Okay, Pliny's also got Kahaktatsaurus. Every single thing that is happening in your life is supposed to be happening. I said to my wife, one of the most beautiful things, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, of being a speaker on the speaking circuit, is you get to meet so many people, and when people say, but Rabbi, I wish I could be like that person, I know that person with the blonde sheitel. You don't want to be that person with the blonde sheitel. That's the reason why when you got off the plane, those of you who don't live in New York, and you went to the turnstile and you went through that conveyor belt to pick up your suitcase, to pick up your luggage, why don't you pick up the suitcase, the baggage of the guy next to you? Everything, because it belongs to you. Your pekel, your matzav, your wife, your children, that's your baggage. And that's exactly what's tailor-made for you to have a life of bracha and simcha, which I wish for each and every one of you. Welcome to Project Inspire. I'll take any questions and thank you for listening.